Mom, I can't come home for Christmas. Alex Carter's voice barely held steady as he stared at his phone, dreading the call he'd have to make in 20 minutes. The December snow outside O'Brien's Diner in Chicago's Lincoln Park had been falling since noon, each flake against frosted windows, a cruel reminder of home, of his mother Susan's warm kitchen back in Columbus. At 28, Alex had learned to swallow disappointment like bitter medicine. But tonight felt different. Tonight, the weight of being broke, alone and hiding pieces of himself pressed against his chest until breathing became work. He'd been counting tips for months, saving every spare dollar while riding the blue line to his shifts, dreaming of surprising his family in Ohio. The graphic design portfolios he'd submitted to 12 firms this year had yielded nothing but polite rejections. His Honda Civic had betrayed him 2 weeks ago with a transmission failure that cost $1,200, money that had been earmarked for something sacred. Christmas in the Carter household wasn't just a holiday. It was Susan's masterpiece of love. Since his father died when Alex was 15, leaving behind medical bills and a widow with 2 boys, Christmas had become her way of proving that broken families could still create magic. Her famous sugar cookies that somehow tasted like childhood security, midnight mass at St. Joseph Cathedral downtown, where stained glass caught candlelight like captured stars. Christmas morning pancakes that defied physics by tasting different from any other day. This would be the first Christmas they'd spend apart. His older brother Marcus was deployed somewhere in Afghanistan, his letters carefully scrubbed of location details. Susan would be alone for the first time at 62, rattling around their small house on Parsons Avenue, probably playing Christmas music too loud to fill the silence. The diner's familiar sounds wrapped around Alex like an old coat. Coffee machine hissing, plates clinking against worn Formica tables, the gentle murmur of late-night conversations between people avoiding their own empty apartments. Mrs. Patterson had been in for her Tuesday apple pie, asking about his latest artwork with the kindness of someone who remembered what it felt like to have dreams deferred. Old Joe nursed his coffee in the corner booth, slipping Alex extra tips when he thought no one was watching. They'd become his chosen family in this sprawling, unforgiving city. But nothing could replace the ache that lived in his chest for the people who'd known him before he learned to hide parts of himself. Before he discovered that loving the wrong person could cost you everything you thought you understood about belonging. Alex wiped down the last table, his hands trembling slightly as he glanced at his phone. $43.16. That's what 3 years of chasing Marines in Chicago had earned him for Christmas. The cheapest flight to Columbus he could find cost $750. Might as well have been $7,000. The diner's door chimed, bringing with it a swirl of snow and a man who looked like he'd stepped from a different universe. Expensive wool coat, perfectly tailored despite the weather. Everything about him speaking of a world where $750 was lunch money. But something in his eyes looked tired, almost as lonely as Alex felt. The man chose a corner booth and ordered just coffee, his phone buzzing constantly on the scarred table like an insistent heartbeat. Alex wondered if everyone was just trying to survive the holidays, each carrying invisible burdens that made them strangers to their own lives. In this moment, neither man knew they were about to discover that sometimes salvation comes disguised as coincidence, and that the loneliest nights can birth the most unexpected grace. Have you ever felt the weight of disappointing the people you love most? Stay with Heart Stories for this journey of hope in unexpected kindness, where every broken moment holds promise. The call came at exactly 9:15. Just as Alex was refilling coffee for the well-dressed stranger who'd been avoiding his own family for 2 hours. Susan's ringtone played its familiar melody, the gentle tune that used to make Alex smile but tonight sounded like a funeral dirge. He stepped into the storage room for privacy, his heart hammering against his ribs. "Honey, I've been thinking about Christmas morning." His mother's voice carried that bright anticipation he remembered from childhood, when the world still made sense and love didn't come with conditions. "I found your old stocking in the attic, the one with the little reindeer that you picked out when you were 8. I thought we could hang it next to Marcus's." "Mom, wait." Alex's voice cracked like winter ice. He closed his eyes, feeling the weight of every dollar he didn't have, every dream that had crumbled since he'd fled Columbus 3 years ago after David had shattered his heart. I can't come home for Christmas. The silence stretched between Illinois and Ohio like a physical thing. Alex could hear the kitchen clock ticking in the background, the same one that had measured time through his childhood, marking minutes until his father came home from his construction job, until homework was finished, until bedtime stories ended. When Susan finally spoke, her voice had become small and fragile. "Oh, sweetheart, is it money? Because I can help. I've been putting aside a little each week from my paycheck at Nationwide. I know Christmas is expensive, and you're working so hard to build your career." "No, Mom, you can't." Alex's tears came freely now, hot against his cheeks in the cool storage room. "I know you're already stretching everything just to keep the house. The property taxes went up again this year, and your car needs new tires. I won't let you go into debt for this." Through the storage room's thin walls, Alex could hear the diner's nighttime symphony continuing without him. The coffee machine's familiar hiss, plates clinking against each other as his coworkers cleaned up, the gentle murmur of customers who had somewhere to go, someone waiting for them. But all he could focus on was his mother's quiet crying 300 miles away, the sound of a woman who'd already buried her husband. "I'll make it up to you," Alex whispered, his voice barely audible above the sound of his own breaking. "Maybe New Year's, or Valentine's Day, or Easter. We'll do something special. I promise, it's not about the day. Baby." Susan's words carried the weight of years spent missing people she loved. "It's about being together. It's been such a hard year, watching you struggle out there, worrying about Marcus somewhere I can't even pronounce. And I just miss my children. I miss the sound of laughter in this house." Alex pressed his back against the storage room wall, feeling the rough texture through his uniform shirt. He thought about David's last text message, sent 8 months ago from San Francisco, where he'd moved to take a tech job that was supposed to be their new beginning together. He thought about the portfolio reviews, where his work was dismissed as too emotional, not commercial enough for the clean corporate world. "I have to go. Mom, my shift isn't over yet, and Jerry gets angry when we take long personal calls. I love you more than all the Christmas lights in Ohio. I love you too, honey." Susan's voice carried an ocean of unspoken worries. 3 years of wondering why her youngest son had really fled home, why his voice changed when she asked about his personal life. "Be safe out there, and know that you're always welcome here." After hanging up, Alex leaned against the wall and sobbed quietly, the kind of crying that comes from deep places where shame and love tangle together until you can't tell which is which. Through the door, he could hear that same customer's phone buzzing again and again, like a heartbeat that refused to stop. Alex returned to the dining room with red-rimmed eyes he hoped weren't too obvious, carrying the familiar weight of disappointment that had become his constant companion since moving to Chicago. The well-dressed man was still in his corner booth, but something had changed. His phone lay silent on the table for the first time since he'd arrived, and he was staring out the window with an expression Alex recognized. "More coffee?" Alex asked, his voice steadier than he felt, the practiced politeness of someone who'd learned to smile through heartbreak. The man looked up, and Alex saw something unexpected in his eyes. Not pity, which he'd grown to hate, but understanding. "Actually, I couldn't help but overhear your phone call. I'm sorry if that sounds intrusive." The man's voice carried a slight Texas drawl that somehow made the invasion of privacy feel less jarring. Alex felt heat rise in his cheeks, embarrassment mixing with vulnerability. "Oh God, was I that loud? I'm so sorry. I try to keep personal calls quiet, but Jerry gets really upset if we tie up the phone lines. And I didn't want to miss her call." "No, please don't apologize." The man gestured to the seat across from him with gentle authority. "Would you mind sitting for a moment? I'm Theodore, by the way, but people call me Ted." Something about his tone made Alex pause his automatic refusal. This wasn't the usual creepy customer situation he'd learned to navigate during 3 years of service work. This felt different, like standing at the edge of something transformative. Alex glanced around the diner. Only 2 other tables occupied, both by regulars who'd be fine for a few minutes. "I'm Alex," he said, sliding into the booth cautiously, still ready to bolt if this turned weird. The vinyl seat was cracked and patched with electrical tape, a reminder of the gulf between their worlds. Ted's phone buzzed again, and this time he powered it off completely, a gesture that felt significant. "I've been sitting here for 2 hours avoiding my own family Christmas," he said, his confession hanging between them like an offering. "Funny how that works, isn't it? You'd give anything to be with yours, and I'd pay anything to avoid mine." Alex studied Ted's face, looking for signs of casual cruelty he'd learned to expect from wealthy strangers. Instead, he found something genuine, a sadness that made his own problems feel less isolating. "Big family, big expectations," Alex asked, recognizing the exhaustion that came from performing versions of yourself for other people's comfort. Ted smiled, but it held no joy. "Big family, bigger disappointment. My parents want me to bring someone home, preferably someone who will give them grandchildren and photo opportunities. My siblings want to show off their perfect nuclear families. Everyone wants to know why the successful son can't seem to get his personal life together, why Theodore Whitman can build an empire but can't find a wife. Success isn't everything," Alex said softly, thinking about his rejected portfolios, his broken car, his empty bank account, wondering how someone who had everything could sound so lost. "No, it's not." Ted was quiet for a moment, his gaze drifting back to the snow-covered street. "Can I ask you something? What would it mean to you to be home for Christmas?" "Really mean? Not just the surface stuff." The question caught Alex off guard, its honesty disarming in a way that made him want to answer truthfully. He found himself talking about Susan, about traditions that meant more than expensive gifts, about the way she hummed while cooking, and how she always saved the wishbone from Thanksgiving turkey until Christmas morning. He talked about belonging somewhere completely, about being truly known and loved for exactly who you were. "That's exactly what I've been missing," Ted said quietly. "That feeling of home, of being seen rather than performed for." As Alex spoke, he noticed Ted reaching for his wallet, his expression growing more thoughtful. Something was shifting between them, like the moment before lightning strikes. Ted pulled out his phone and did something Alex never expected. His fingers moved quickly across the screen, opening a travel app with the practiced efficiency of someone accustomed to making decisions that change lives. "What are you doing?" Alex asked, his voice catching as he watched numbers and flight times populate the screen. "Something I should have done 2 hours ago, instead of sitting here feeling sorry for myself." Ted replied, his smile transforming his entire face. "Alex, what if I told you that solving your problem might actually solve mine too?" Alex stared at him, confusion mixing with hope he was afraid to acknowledge. "I don't follow." "I mean, we just met, and I'm nobody special. Just a waiter who can't even afford to see his family." Ted turned his phone toward Alex, revealing a booking confirmation screen that made Alex's heart stop completely. "There's a flight to Columbus tomorrow at 11 in the morning. I've already purchased the ticket. First class, open return, your name on the confirmation." The screen showed Theodore Whitman's credit card information, a transaction completed 15 minutes ago, while Alex had been talking about wishbones and Christmas morning pancakes. "I can't accept that," Alex said, his voice rising with panic. "I don't even know you. This is crazy. People don't just buy plane tickets for strangers they meet in diners. This feels like some kind of scam or joke." "You know the important things about me," Ted said gently. "You know I'm someone who's been blessed with resources I don't deserve. Sitting in a diner avoiding my family while you're breaking your heart to get to yours. That tells you everything about both of us that matters. But why would you help me?" Alex's question carried years of learning that kindness usually came with conditions, that generosity often hid expectation or control. "Because listening to you talk about your mother reminded me why Christmas matters," Ted said, his honesty cutting through Alex's defenses. "It's not about perfect families or meeting expectations. It's about love. Real, unconditional love that doesn't require you to be anyone other than who you are." He slid the phone across the table, the confirmation screen glowing between them like a small miracle. Take the ticket, Alex. Go home. Your job will be here when you get back. I'll make sure of that. How can you just do this? Alex's voice trembled with the weight of receiving something he'd never dared ask for. I make more in a day than most people see in a year, Ted said simply. No arrogance in the statement, only fact. Money has never bought me what you described tonight, but maybe it can give that feeling to someone who actually deserves it. Alex began to cry again, but these tears were different. Relief and disbelief and overwhelming gratitude that all mixed together into something that felt like grace made manifest. He thought about Susan rattling around their empty house, playing Christmas music to fill the silence. He thought about the Christmas Eve service they'd attended together every year since his father died. I don't know how to thank you, Alex whispered, his hands shaking as he stared at the miracle displayed on Ted's phone screen. Call your mother, Ted said, standing and reaching for his coat. And save me a seat at midnight mass. I think it's time I remembered what Christmas actually feels like instead of what I'm supposed to perform. Ted left a $100 bill on the table, more money than Alex usually made in tips during an entire shift. As the door closed behind him, bringing another swirl of snow into the warm diner, Alex sat alone with the phone in his hands, staring at a confirmation that proved miracles could arrive, disguised as ordinary conversations between lonely people. 24 hours later, Alex stood in his childhood kitchen, watching Susan hum while rolling out sugar cookie dough, the familiar melody filling every corner of the small room like a blessing finally come home. The scent of cinnamon and the soft whisper of snow against the windows created a symphony Alex had forgotten he missed. Susan had cried for 10 straight minutes when he walked through the door, holding him so tightly that Alex thought they might never let go. Her tears soaking into his shirt like years of worry finally finding release. I still can't believe it, Susan said for the dozenth time since his arrival, shaping a cookie with the old star-shaped cutter Alex remembered from childhood. An angel in O'Brien's diner of all places. God works in mysterious ways, doesn't he? Alex smiled, thinking of Ted and the text message that had arrived that morning from Austin. Actually enjoying myself for the first time in years. The message had read, told my family about a remarkable young man I met who taught me something important about what matters. Thank you for reminding me who I used to be. The remarkable thing wasn't the plane ticket, though Alex knew he'd never forget that generosity. The remarkable thing was how one honest conversation between two lonely people had reminded them both that isolation was a choice they could unmake. That vulnerability could be a bridge instead of a burden. Ted had found his way back to his family not by performing their expectations, but by sharing his truth. Alex had found his way home not just geographically, but emotionally, carrying with him the knowledge that asking for help wasn't weakness and accepting kindness wasn't failure. Mom, remember when Dad used to say that Christmas was about making room at the table, Alex asked, working beside Susan in the familiar rhythm they developed after his father's death. Susan's eyes grew soft with memory. He said there was always room for one more story, one more smile, one more chance at joy. He used to set an extra place every Christmas Eve, just in case someone needed a place to belong. I think he would have liked Ted, Alex said, remembering his father's quiet generosity. Susan nodded, placing cookies in the oven. Your father used to say that kindness recognizes kindness. That people who've known real loneliness can spot it in others and choose to do something about it. That man saw something in you worth celebrating. Christmas morning arrived with fresh snow and the distant sound of church bells calling the faithful to services across Columbus. Alex helped Susan prepare their traditional pancake breakfast, adding an extra place setting out of habit and hope. At exactly 10 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Ted stood on the porch holding a small wrapped package and wearing the most peaceful expression Alex had ever seen. The expensive coat was gone, replaced with a simple wool sweater that made him look like someone who belonged. I hope you don't mind my showing up unannounced, Ted said, his Texas drawl somehow fitting perfectly on an Ohio front porch. I told my family I'd found something more important than their expectations. I wanted to experience Christmas the way you described it. Susan welcomed him like she'd known him for years, because that's what people do when they recognize genuine kindness. As they sat around the small kitchen table sharing stories and laughter, Alex understood something profound about the nature of belonging. It wasn't just about returning to the place you came from, but about creating space for others to return to themselves. Ted became part of their Christmas tradition, returning every year not as a benefactor, but as family, chosen and cherished. He eventually moved his foundation's headquarters from Austin to Columbus, focusing on personal connections rather than distant charity, learning that true generosity happens in moments of genuine encounter. Alex never stopped believing in Christmas miracles, because he'd learned they often come disguised as ordinary moments when we choose courage over safety, when we risk being seen in our need and abundance, when we remember that every stranger carries a story worth hearing. Sometimes the greatest gifts we receive are the opportunities to give. And sometimes the family we're born into prepares us to recognize the family we're meant to create. In these moments, we discover that love always makes room for one more story finding its way home. Have you ever experienced unexpected kindness that changed your perspective on what's possible? Share your story in the comments below. Subscribe to Heart Stories for more tales of hope, healing, and the beautiful ways we save each other.